Hello, everyone. This is Maureen Gagey. Welcome to the 2018 U.S. Benefits Open Enrollment presentation. Joining me on the call today are Carly Rosenfeld, Linda Feisfield, and Colin Murphy from the benefits team. Thank you so much for your time today. We're pleased to be speaking with you. I just want to say up front that we are recording this presentation. The recording and the PowerPoint will be posted at rewards@3ds.com later today, so you'll have it available for you. Okay, jumping in. Our agenda for today is we want to share some background on the state of healthcare at 3DS. We know medical plan choice is one of your major decisions during this open enrollment time, so we'll spend some time there looking at the plan designs as well as the associated costs. We thought it could be a good opportunity to give you all an update on the health investment plan. It's a plan we introduced several years ago. Enrollment has been growing in that plan. And we've now got some feedback from our employees on perhaps those who have moved in there and how they're valuing it and using the plan. And then, as you all know, the costs of healthcare they continue to rise. They're in the news on a regular basis. We've got a good story here at 3DS, but we also have some things to share with you in terms of longer term, what it means for all of us together to manage our costs going forward. Most importantly, we want to make sure we end our time together with you understanding what's coming up, dates, tools, resources, and we've got several slides at the end of the presentation to make sure you have all the resources you need to make your decisions in the coming weeks. Okay, jumping in. So many of you who have been on our calls in the past know the benefits team regularly benchmarks our benefits programs, what we offer, our plan designs, the costs that are associated with them, because it's very important that we ensure we remain competitive with the high-tech market. As well, we appreciate the feedback from all of you in terms of how you value and how you feel about the benefit program that we offer here at 3DS to our US employees. And a good sign to us is that more than 95% of our employees are enrolled in our various medical, dental, and vision programs. We know you may have another choice through a spouse or perhaps yes is your only option, but when people do have choice, again, we're getting validation that our plans are valued just through the enrollment that we see year over year. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we have a good story to tell. Overall, we've been managing the cost of healthcare well, perhaps even better than the market and some of our peer companies. And that truly comes from a partnership between 3DS and all of our families working together to manage the cost of healthcare, both today and longer term. So DS remains committed to all of you to ensuring the benefits are competitive. We continue to partner with the leaders in each of the various lines of business. We look regularly in working with our broker consultant to see what kind of innovative programs can we bring to you to add more value. And also we want to recognize all of you for what the roles that you play in being well. That's largely come through our Vitality Wellness program that we introduced now. This is our second year. But we do also rely on help from you and from your families. We ask you to continue to be active participants in your health, to take advantage of all the resources that are available. And again, we get good indication that our employees are taking advantage of preventative health. Our statistics are good in terms of the routine exams and all the various screenings that are recommended for you and your family at your different age groups. And all of that, like I said, it is key to managing costs. Getting a little more specific in terms of the medical plan costs, perhaps we've shared the newsletter with you last week, so some of you may already be aware of this, that the copay plan has an increase of approximately 6% to employee contributions. This is really a direct reflection of the higher utilization rates that we have in that plan. This comes through inpatient admissions, office visits, emergency rooms. And what we're learning overall is that employees are managing more chronic conditions, and as a result, higher utilization and higher costs on that plan. As some of you who are enrolled in that plan, or you may know in general, employees pay more through payroll for the copay plan, but they have lower costs at point of service, whether that comes through low or even no cost for some services that they secure in network. But again, as a result of the experience in that plan, employee contributions will go up on average 6% for the various coverage tiers. What we're seeing in the co-insurance and the health investment plan is utilization is actually lower. In that plan, employees pay significantly less through payroll, but they do pay more perhaps at point of service. That can come through various deductibles or co-insurance that may need to be met for certain services. In those plans, because the utilization is on track to where it's been and where we expect going forward, employee contributions will stay the same for 2018. Just as a comparison, we, again, do well compared to market trend, which tends to be 6, 7, 8%. Our increase was 2% in 2017 and 5% in 2016. So even with a 6% increase to the copay plan, we're still slightly below healthcare cost trend increases in the market in general. Okay, to expand a little bit more around the partnership, what we also are able to learn is that the cost for some conditions that our employees are experiencing are on the rise. As an example, musculoskeletal, so these are the hips and the backs and the knees, those kinds of things. In addition, Blue Cross shares with us that there's about $2.5 million in claims that what they say is being driven by what's called modifiable risks. These are things like unhealthy BMIs, high blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol, smoking, these kinds of things. What they mean by modifiable risks is these are things that employees can take steps to improve their health, which then longer term can address some of these conditions and reduce claims. So while this isn't just about managing costs for DS, it's really about us wanting our employees to be healthy, right? We want you healthy for today. We want you healthy for the longer term, to be productive and healthy at work, but more importantly, to be healthy and productive in your life, for your families, which is why we launched the Vitality Wellness Program, or our partnership with them. Many of you know we researched a number of platforms and solutions. We settled on Vitality as being the best fit for us. Over half of you are registered and benefiting from that, and the feedback is good. If you haven't had the opportunity to register with Vitality, I would do so. If you've registered and perhaps have been away from the program for a while, I encourage you to re-engage. For several reasons, we encourage the employees to take the Vitality Health Review every year. It's sort of your starting place. Some of you also may have or will next year take advantage of a biometric screening, and that really gives you a roadmap where you're doing well and where you may have areas to improve. We got some feedback that a device is an important part of participating in Vitality, because you have the chance to have your physical activity, your steps tracked, and you can earn points. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, we encourage you to take your Vitality Health Review this year. That allows you to be eligible for $60 device subsidy that you can use in the Vitality Mall. And again, I've mentioned that prevention being the first step to helping address these risks includes your well visits and your routine screenings. Again, we're doing well, but there's always areas to improve there too. So make sure you're talking with your physicians and your family members about what's the right time for your visits and what screenings may be appropriate for you in the coming year. We also want to remind employees, if you whether you're enrolled in a medical plan or not, all U.S. employees are eligible for the Vitality program. If you're enrolled in our medical plan, as most of you are, you also have the opportunity to take advantage of the fitness reimbursement and the weight loss reimbursement, which is $150 for each of them, or a max of $300 per family for each of the two programs. So keep that in mind. And we also like to share that we welcomed a little over 150 babies to the DS family this year. So we're always thrilled to hear about the pregnancies and new babies joining the family. Blue Cross has launched a partnership with Ovia, and we'll share a little bit about a new pregnancy app that's available to provide support to expectant moms and new moms. Okay. So these are the employee contributions that are also posted out on the website, but as you can see, not only are there no increase to the coinsurance and the health investment plan, but the dental and vision employee contributions remain the same as well. That's the 4th year in a row. So again, we're doing well with managing our costs in those plans. We continue to encourage you all. There's no copay for a vision exam, no copay for a dental checkup. That's also part of preventative care. And we hope you'll take advantage of that. And then you have the rest of the dental and vision coverage, whether you need eyeglasses or contacts, or you have fillings or other kind of dental work. We've got competitive plans available to support you in covering your costs for the other services. And as you can see, the copay plan rates are shown per tier. I think it's somewhere on an annual basis, $60 to $300, depending on which tier of coverage you enroll in terms of annual costs. Okay, so again, I mentioned the medical plans is really your key opportunity each year to ensure you really understand the 3 plans that we offer, where they're similar and where they're different, and that you're enrolled in the right plan for you and your family. So this will be a repeat for some of you, so just bear with me for 2 slides while we go through kind of the nuts and bolts of this, and then we're going to share with you some examples of how the plans cover the various costs for services. So starting with the copay plan, aptly named as we like to say, because the majority of the services are either covered at no cost or through a copay. For instance, $25 for a regular office visit or $35 with a specialist. As you've seen on the previous slide, the cost per paycheck can be double or more the other 2 plans, and that's because there's little to no cost at point of service. All of your labs, x-rays, inpatient stays, outpatient services, it's all covered. So employees who are on this plan perhaps are valuing or thinking of it as an insurance plan. They're paying more per paycheck in the event that if they have expenses or chronic conditions that they're managing, they won't have very much out of pocket. Okay. The coinsurance plan is a mixture of copays and coinsurance. As you can see, the same copays for a diagnostic primary care visit or specialist visit as would be on the copay plan. Where the plan starts to differentiate itself from the copay plan is if you were to have various tests or an inpatient stay or an outpatient surgery rather. Here, employees would first be subject to a deductible, and we'll share those on the next slide. It's $250 an individual or $750 max per family. So the employee could pay up to $250 first for that inpatient stay, for instance. And then any expenses after that, DS, the medical plan, will cover 90% of the cost, and the employee would pay 10% of the cost. So a $100 bill that comes in after that deductible, DS is paying $90 of that bill, and the employee is paying $10. And there is up to an annual out-of-pocket max. All of our plans have out-of-pocket maxes to provide employee security in the case of any kind of catastrophic illnesses or that would relate to high expenses. I mentioned the health investment plan. I think we've had that for several years now, 4 years. I think this is our 4th year. All of these plans, again, are PPOs. They all have preferred rates in network and then out-of-network coverage if you go out of network. And again, I always iterate during this call that the plans cover all the same services. They use all the same network of providers. So regardless of what plan you're on, you'll always get the negotiated rates from Blue Cross when you're in network, and all the same services are covered. The health investment plan has what we call a high deductible. It's also a high deductible plan, and that's becoming more of a common phrase in the media and in the marketplace. Also CDHP, or Consumer Directed Health Plan. The difference here is we've designed this specifically at a minimum deductible to then allow us to add a preferred health savings account, which I'll talk about more on the next page as well. But like the coinsurance plan, employees have some costs, or all of their costs actually, besides preventative care, subject to the deductible. So employees are paying 100% of the cost until they hit the deductible. But then that same 90-10 cost sharing comes in, where after the deductible is met, the employee pays 10% of the expenses and the DS pays 90% of the expenses up to that annual out-of-pocket maximum. Just a quick note on prescriptions, because that's a difference across the 3 plans. Copay and coinsurance have standard copays for prescription drugs, depending on the tier of medication. In the health investment plan, like other healthcare services, employees will pay the 100% of the cost of that medication until they hit the deductible, and then the 90-10 cost sharing applies. There is one exception: preventative medications. These are things that are taken on an ongoing basis to treat high blood pressure, for instance, or cholesterol. That is covered at the same traditional copays at $10, $25, and $50, depending on the tier of drug. So we've talked a little bit about the cost sharing, or out of the paycheck contributions from our employees to the medical coverage, higher under the copay plan and lower on the coinsurance, and the health investment plan being the same as the coinsurance plan. I've hinted a little bit about the HSA. What this refers to are the tax advantage savings accounts. This allows employees to put money away on a pre-tax basis up to IRS limits to cover certain healthcare expenses. If you enroll in the copay or the coinsurance plan, you have the opportunity to contribute to a flexible spending account. With the health investment plan, you contribute to an HSA. So your tax advantage savings account is directly linked to the medical plan that you enroll in. What's unique about the health investment plan and the health savings account is DS continues to make a contribution to that. So if you enroll in individual coverage, it's $750. And if you enroll in any of the other tiers, employee plus one, employee plus spouse, employee plus children or family, it's a $1,500 contribution by DS to the HSA. And that is all done upfront at the beginning of the year. The strategy or the thinking behind that is it provides some funding or some money in the account early in the year as you may incur healthcare expenses. And the other thing is when I say healthcare expenses, and this applies whether it's an FSA or an HSA, it's not just expenses through the medical plan that you may be paying for out of pocket. It also includes dental expenses, vision expenses. It's really a full list that the IRS sets up, and it's the same list of expenses that are eligible for reimbursement in an FSA or an HSA. So I've mentioned deductibles. Again, on the copay plan, there's no deductible for in-network services. There's a $250 per person or up to $750 per family deductible in the co-insurance plan. And then the health investment plan, it's $1,350 for employee-only coverage and $2,700 for all other coverages. Those are up slightly from last year. Again, DS's strategy has been to set this deductible at the minimum that the IRS will allow for us to then offer or to qualify this as a high deductible plan and then to have the accompanying health savings account. So that tracks with the IRS, and they did increase them, the minimum deductible by just a little bit. Again, as I've mentioned, all of our plans have an out-of-pocket maximum that, again, provides you sort of your maximum exposure in any given year. We know that you have the opportunity to do various modeling, and we're going to help you with some simplified examples. But the reality is, the past isn't always a predictor of the future. You may have some sense of what your medical expenses are going to be year over year, and that will feed into which plan you pick or how you prefer to pay for your health care. But we can't always predict what our medical expenses will be. So just rest assured that all of our plans have a maximum out of pocket, which does include all deductibles, all co-pays that you may incur in the course of a given year. So the out-of-pocket maximum combined with what you would pay through your paycheck would really be your total cost for medical coverage in a given year. Okay, so we've come up with 3 examples. We'd like to take you through at a high level how the medical plans work. There's a lot of detail in this, and really why we crafted these is because the medical plan cost estimator is available to you online. And it can be a bit cumbersome. It's designed in partnership with Blue Cross and WebMD, but with the DS plan information in there. And by the way, any information you enter in there is confidential. DS has no access to that. Nothing is saved. It's really just a modeling tool for you. But we've gotten some feedback that while it's designed to be very comprehensive, it can also be a little bit overwhelming. So we'd still encourage you to walk through the medical plan cost estimator, but at the same time, perhaps you'll spend some time after the presentation going through these examples where we're taking someone with low expenses, moderate expenses, and high expenses. We've got at the top some background and descriptions of the various expenses, and then you can work through sort of line by line how these expenses would be covered across the 3 plans. We've also taken into account what the annual paycheck contributions would be, so you can really see a full picture. So just at a high level, if we look at Raj, he's enrolled in single coverage, he's fairly healthy, he's getting his routine exams and associated tests at no cost. That's covered on all 3 of our plans. That's through the requirements of the Affordable Care Act. But he may have, or he does have, a non-preventative visit. So he may think he has an ear infection or strep throat, which results in a visit, some lab work, and then a generic prescription to treat that. And on top of it, he has a specialist visit. As you can see on the copay plan, it's all going to be copays. He's got $70 out of pocket. Let's just assume this is his only medical expenses for the year, and then he's got his paycheck contributions, and you can look at that at total. He's decided not to contribute anything to an HSA or FSA. On the co-insurance plan, it illustrates that blend of some of the visits, some of the costs being a copay, for instance, the doctor's visit at $25, but then the lab work is going to be subject to the deductible. Once he hits the deductible, then the co-insurance would kick in. So as you can see with Raj, he's got lower out of the paycheck, lower out of pocket, as compared to the copay plan. On the health investment plan, he's paying the full cost of the visits and the lab work because he would need to hit the deductible first before the 90/10 cost sharing would come in. And in this case, he would receive $750 to the health investment plan, and he can decide to leave that and save it, or he could decide to put that towards the $613 he had out of pocket in the health investment plan. If we move to Susan, she's enrolled in family coverage, so just already she's got more volume of healthcare services with a spouse and young children. And again, illustrating a combination of copays for some services, having to meet a deductible for others. And in this case, illustrating that because she's enrolled in family coverage, she would have a $1,500 contribution to the HSA that, again, she could use to pay her out-of-pocket expenses, or she could choose to pay them out of pocket herself and save and grow the HSA account over time. The third example is Dan. We've added some of the inpatient stays, he and his wife each having a surgery with an inpatient stay, because we really wanted to give you an illustration of how that works. So in this example on the copay plan, Dan and his wife don't see there's no bill. He gets his explanation of benefits for those inpatient stays, and where it says patient responsibility, it's going to say 0. Right? He won't receive any copays or deductibles that have to be met, or coinsurance or any bills at all. And then on the coinsurance plan and the health investment plan, again, I won't take you through all of the math, but you'll see the meeting the deductible and then the coinsurance kicking in. And then to some degree, because of the expense of these surgeries, this example illustrates them actually hitting their out-of-pocket maximum for that plan year. So any services after that would be covered fully, of course, by DS, because the out-of-pocket maximum has been hit for that plan year. So again, we want to ensure we get through the rest of the presentation and possibly even have some time for some of your questions, although I should have said at the start, Linda and Carly have been responding to those as we go along, but there'll probably be some as well that we can share with the full group if we have time at the end. But again, know that these are available if you want to walk through them in more detail to ensure you're confident in terms of how the plan works. They're available to do so. And of course, any of us on the benefits team as well are always available to walk you through scenarios. The one other slide that we just wanted to illustrate in Dan's case is bringing in the savings to an FSA or to an HSA, because tax savings are not something to just sort of be discounted. If you think you're going to have out-of-pocket expenses that can be reimbursed, you want to also think about those, because you may want to set money aside in a flexible spending account if you're in the copay or the coinsurance plan, or put money in addition to what DS would contribute to the health investment plan. Because we're assuming just a rough, everybody has their own tax rate, but at a 35% tax rate, that can also be additional savings for you to consider. We always remind people, though, that on the flexible spending account, you have to plan carefully. If you have any balance at the end of the year, that money is forfeited. So people tend to plan conservatively for that. Whereas in the health investment plan, the money rolls over year over year, the DS money as well as your own money, and there's no limit to how large your HSA can grow to. But the tax savings, can be a factor as well, as you're thinking not only about which medical plan to be in for 2018, but whether or not you want to put some money aside to cover eligible expenses on a tax-free basis. Okay. So again, I promised that we spend just a little more time on the health investment plan because it is still a newer plan. I've mentioned that it is because of the high deductible design that we can offer the health savings account, and I've talked about the contributions from DS and the opportunity for employees to make optional contributions. Those contributions can be changed during the year, whereas the FSA contribution is set for the year. So again, that's the pre-planning around how much you think you'll have in eligible expenses. The HSA is more flexible from the standpoint of being able to change those as perhaps your situation, some expenses you anticipated don't happen, or some happen that you didn't anticipate. You have the flexibility to do that. We've talked in the past about the triple tax advantage. Money comes in tax-free, it can grow tax-free. You also have the opportunity to invest it in mutual funds, or you can put it in more of a money market, no risk type of investment vehicle. And then when you use the money for eligible healthcare expenses, it's withdrawn tax-free. You can use it to pay for current year expenses. Again, I mentioned save it for future. The money is always yours immediately, no risk of forfeiture. You can take these accounts with you. Some employees have never been in this type of plan before. They're in it with DS, but they say, well, what happens when I retire? Or what happens if I go to another company? It's very much like your 401k. You can roll it into a new company's HSA. If they have a high deductible plan, they would have the opportunity for you to roll it into theirs, and that allows you sort of to manage your money in a consolidated way. You can keep it in the DS HSA, or you have various choices on what to do with that. But again, the money is always yours. It has some other advantages in that there's no claim forms like there is with an FSA. You can use your debit card to pay expenses like an HSA, or you can, rather like an FSA, or you can log right into the health equity system, and you can pay the provider directly through health equity. Again, you want to keep your receipts to show that you have the eligible expenses, but it's not as if you have to attach them to receive a reimbursement. So really this is something that the IRS has designed and is promoting. There's not really anything much like it, which is why we started to offer it at DS. We had new hires or employees joining from acquisitions who had this type of plan, and it was missing from our offering. But clearly this opportunity for this tax savings is one of the reasons why some of our employees are finding it as an attractive alternative. We know couples will need, I think the number is something like $250,000 or even more if you retire today for your healthcare expenses in your retirement. And these kinds of accounts are designed to have employees be thinking longer term. Just as you're saving for your retirement through your 401k, you can save for your healthcare expenses in retirement through this HSA. And it's even more attractive than your 401k because you've got to pay taxes on your 401k at some point, whether you decide to do it when you contribute or when you withdraw the money at retirement. Whereas this money that's in an HSA, as I said, again, it's tax-free. So as I mentioned, employees over the last few years have talked to the benefits team sort of a little bit about how they're using the plan. So I'm going to shift the discussion a little bit to if the health investment plan makes sense for you. Employees have shared with us that there's a bit of a strategy around how to use the HSA. So again, we've got 3 profiles. We've kind of got in quotes here, the low utilizer. This could be our example of Raj, just basically having routine exams and screenings all covered at no cost through the Affordable Care Act, routine dental and vision exams, again, really no out-of-pocket expenses, very minimal, a sick visit or a prescription here or there. In this case, the DS contribution to the HSA could be covering the expenses, of what I would call your low utilizer. So the HSA strategy here may be not to make any contributions in addition to what DS is contributing, or to make a small amount, maybe enough to fund up to the deductible. So if a low utilizer were to have a year where the expenses were a little higher, they'd at least have the deductible covered and wouldn't have that shock of having to hit the deductible and fund that through his or her own savings. But they feel a little bit more comfortable that if they've got the deductible covered through a combination of the DS contribution of their own money, they could manage paying 10% of the subsequent bills up to the out-of-pocket maximum. It also seems to be a theme of what I would call the consumers. So this is a person, they've got healthcare expenses. They've either got a larger family, or they're managing conditions on their own or of their family members, and they're regularly consuming healthcare, I would say. What employees sort of tell us their strategy is with regard to the HSA here is they're making contributions in addition to what DS is. They know they're going to be having out-of-pocket expenses, meeting their deductibles and then co-insurance after that. They're likely paying their bills either with their HSA through DS money or money that they've put in as well, because they're really focusing on that tax advantage, right? So they're almost putting the money in and using it to cover their expenses. It's almost like a pass-through account and taking advantage of the tax savings. And then the third one, some employees are falling into what we've kind of labeled the savers. They may have high, low, medium usage of healthcare services, but they have a very specific, almost financially oriented strategy when it comes to the HSA. They're making contributions in addition to what the company is. In some cases, they're going right up to the maximum that the IRS will allow. The limits, by the way, for how much you contribute to an FSA or an HSA are in the guide that we mailed out earlier this week, and it's posted on our website. But the IRS maximum for the HSA is a combination of what you contribute and MDS contributes. They're probably paying their bills as it comes in through their own money, through a checking account. They're really focused on funding this HSA, having the money sit in that account, and then having it grow for the future. They may be an active investor, just as they are with their 401k. They're looking at the mutual fund lineup within the Health Equity platform and monitoring the investments that they're in. Interest and gains are tax-free, as I've mentioned previously. It doesn't mean, though, that some employees have said to us, but, you know, my wife had a baby, or we had, you know, a surgery that we didn't plan for, and they had a bit of larger claim that they didn't really want to have to manage through their own day-to-day, you know, cash flow with other bills that they're managing. So they may pay a larger claim through the HSA and then work on rebuilding it in the future years. So before I shift, I mean, again, we offer 3 plans because we know each of you value the plan that you're in for different reasons. And this isn't a sell to say you should be in one or the other. Our job really is around educating you around the 3 options, ensuring you understand how they work. But we do ask our employees every year to sort of, you know, revalidate that the plan that they're in makes sense. I know some of you tell us, I get busy at open enrollment, I'll do it next year. You know, if you found yourself year after year in that category, I guess we just encourage you to try to make this the year that you're taking into account the combination of what you've been paying out of your pocket and out of your paycheck, that you understand the various tax advantage savings accounts and are maximizing those. So take advantage of the presentation, the medical plan cost estimator, the extended benefits team. You know, we're happy to work through any questions you have or scenarios that you have, again, to ensure you're in the right medical plan for the coming year for you and your family. Okay, so keeping up with managing our costs, and again, you probably see this in the news, that while healthcare costs are rising at rates much greater than just inflation or other goods and services, it's particularly the prescription drug costs within the overall healthcare spend. DS already has a number of programs in place that have been helping us actively manage our pharmacy benefits to control the costs on the longer term. But again, it's not just about controlling costs. A lot of these programs are designed to ensure that your medications are prescribed in a safe and an effective way. We're not unlike other companies that put in these various programs. So to just remind you about some of them and to introduce a new one for 2018, I'll start with a formulary. We have a national formulary through Express Scripts that describes the drugs that are covered. We want to make you aware, if you haven't been privy to this in the past, there's things called step therapies and prior authorizations. This is, again, you may need to work with your doctor to be authorized for a particular medication before it's covered by the plan, or subject to a step therapy where you might try other medications before perhaps what could be a higher cost drug. We've had the home delivery program in place for several years. Again, we like to tout this because it's an opportunity for you to save money as well as the plan overall, in that for various medications that you may be getting on a regular basis, we highly recommend the home delivery program, because you're able to receive a 90-day supply at the cost of 2 co-pays and have the convenience of free home delivery. And I think we've got a slide a little bit later to show you how to set that up. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on the new program that we announced in the newsletters, which is a mandatory generic program. In many cases, there are generic drugs that are identical to their brand name equivalents. And these, as you probably are aware, as patents run out on brand name drugs and generic equivalents come on the market, they can be sold at significantly less cost than their brand name drugs. So this new program will require, if there is a generic equivalent to a brand name drug, you'll be required to fill the prescription with that generic. If you're in the copay or the co-insurance plan and you opt to continue with the brand name drug when there is an alternative, you'll pay your $25 copay plus the difference in the cost between the brand name and the generic drug. If you're enrolled in the health investment plan and have not met your deductible, the impact of having a brand name drug means you would just pay the full cost of the brand name drug, which you would have anyway. But after you meet your deductible, you'll pay 10% of the cost of the brand name drug, plus again, the difference in cost between the brand name and the generic. So this is certainly something we didn't, enter into lightly in terms of our partnership with Express Scripts, and given that this is something many companies have already implemented, it was something that we felt was something we should take some time to consider. Additionally, when we looked at the impact, it's just less than 2% of all the prescriptions that are filled. So I appreciate if you're in that 1.9%, this is a change for you. But in the big scope of all the prescriptions that we're filling, it is a very small percentage, and it does have the potential for all of us to benefit from significant plan savings by switching to generics. So what you can do now is, whether you want to talk with Express Scripts directly, your doctor or your pharmacist, is if you're taking brand name drugs, see if there are first generic equivalents. If there isn't one, this program isn't going to impact you at all. If there is, you can, again, start looking now at what generic equivalents may be available to you, because this program will take effect in January of 2018. It also may mean if you're taking a brand name drug that would be subject to this new program, is that you want to make sure you're filling your prescription. So this isn't something you're managing on January 2nd or 3rd, that you've got a backup of your prescription. And as with all of these various prescription drug programs, there is an appeal process. There will be cases perhaps where there's an allergy to the generic drug, and that would obviously mean that the generic drug isn't an alternative. So the appeals process is available for those kinds of cases. Regarding telehealth, this is something we launched about a year ago, and several hundred of you have taken advantage of this. So we wanted to mention it for two reasons. There's cost savings, but there's actually a bigger benefit, which is really around convenience. The other thing that's good news is there were 2 states when we rolled this out that legally didn't allow telehealth. This is now available in all 50 states. If you're enrolled in the copay or co-insurance plan, it's a $15 copay per visit. If you're in the health investment plan, it's $49 for medical visit, $79 for behavioral health, $95 for a visit with a psychologist until you meet your deductible. And then after that, you're paying 10%. So that same behavioral health visit, for instance, now becomes $7.90 after you've met your deductible. So the feedback employees have been giving us is it's a nice alternative if it's, I don't know, a pink eye or, perhaps a strep throat or an ear infection, something that can be treated by a board-certified physician over your smartphone or over the computer, and they can prescribe medications as well. We're getting feedback from parents. If you're home and there's a sick child at home with another child in the house, it's convenient. You're not looking for daycare, for instance, to take care of your other child while you take a sick child, or exposing a child who's already ill to other illnesses through a doctor's office full of sick children. So the other thing we really want to highlight is the behavioral health aspect. For some folks, that can be a difficult step to take, to say, I really think I could benefit from a therapist to help me with a particular issue I'm dealing with, or for a family member to do so. I think this is just a terrific opportunity, not only to have that visit with a social worker or a psychologist from the convenience of, of your home, over the computer, but saving you time from driving into the office, but for the doctor, but there's also the convenience. So we encourage all of our employees to download the Amwell app. When you download the app and register, if you're interested in, for instance, a behavioral health visit, you can see right there, oh, there's somebody available at 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, at 8 o'clock. I mean, it goes into the evening. So there's a big convenience factor here, and I think an accessibility that is attractive through telehealth. I mentioned also about all the new babies. Linda manages all of our leaves with Carly, and it's always a fun time when we were made aware that someone's expecting or they've had a child. So we're really pleased to share this new partnership that Blue Cross has with Ovia. The app is a great way to start out. You can download it, take advantage of all the learnings sort of that come through the journey as you're going through the pregnancy, but there's also some nice cost-saving benefits such as no-cost breast pumps or reimbursement for childbirth classes. They can help you find doctors. That's through the Blue Cross Best Doctor tool, and it gives employees direct access to a maternity care nurse line during regular hours or after hours. And of particular note is the concern for postpartum. And that's certainly something very real that our employees or their spouses perhaps are faced with after the birth. What Ovia has shared with us and Blue Cross has shared with us is by employees engaging through the Ovia app and through the maternity nurse care line, new moms are saying that they're really getting the support that they maybe hadn't had with a previous childbirth, and that can be really effective in reducing the risk for postpartum depression. Okay, we're getting down to the home stretch here. Each year we remind our employees about the importance of assigning and reviewing their beneficiaries, and I'm really going to be honest with all of you, we're making almost no progress, and it's really tough on the benefits team. Unfortunately, we lose valued colleagues each year. And we have some stories where they just haven't assigned the beneficiaries, and we can't stress enough how much more difficult this can be for those left behind when it is already such a difficult time. So please, 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 we have the new ADP platform, Workforce Now. That's where you're already going in to record time off or to see your paychecks. It's also where you're going to enroll in benefits. There are 3 distinct places to go, and we apologize for that, but it's just the reality of the platforms and how we're managing our programs. So the ADP tool, again, if you're saying, I'm not changing anything for benefits, I don't need to go in, we will beg you to please go in at least to confirm your beneficiaries and make sure that they're set up. This is for the basic life and basic AD&D, the insurances that DS provides at no cost to all of you, but you also may have supplemental coverages that have been set up. So this is where you want to set up your beneficiaries for all of that. Hopefully all of you have 401k accounts. Hopefully you're also all contributing, but whether you're contributing or not, you'll need to go into the 401k, your 401k account through Fidelity. That's netbenefits.com. Again, we've got menu profile beneficiaries. There's no more than 3 at the max 4 steps to get to these places within the websites and set up your beneficiaries. And then if you have been or are enrolled in the health investment plan, your HSA account also needs beneficiaries, and that's within the health equity system. So again, we really, our numbers are abysmal. I think it's less than 50% of our employees have beneficiaries set up. So I'm going to stop begging and pleading and just leave it at that and ask for your support on this. Okay, so enrolling, you may know we've already launched a dedicated rotator on our rewards at 3ds.com with all the information specific to the 2018 open enrollment. So all the 2017 information is there as well, but you can drill right into 2018 open enrollment information through this link. I've talked about the medical plan cost estimator to allow you to look at your total picture, both payroll contributions, out-of-pocket claims costs, as well as potential tax savings through enrollment in an FSA or an HSA. Excuse me. I've also mentioned going to the ADP portal, the workforcenow.adp.com. This is where you'll log in to check your beneficiaries. You can also enroll over the phone by calling the 3DS Benefit Center through our partnership with ADP. Open enrollment officially starts on Monday, the 30th. It'll run for 2 weeks through November 10th. So unfortunately, you can't leave this call and go in to check your beneficiaries or log in. You'll have to schedule that for Monday or any time during the 2-week open enrollment period. So a quick open enrollment wrap-up checklist for all of you. You've got your medical plan choice to make or confirm, double check dental and vision. Again, I like to remind employees that you may be enrolled in family coverage for a medical plan. That doesn't mean you have to be in family coverage for dental or vision. This is especially true for our young families, where your family consists of yourself and your spouse and 2 6-month-old twins. You might not be ready for dental and vision coverage. That's fine. You can just enroll employee and spouse in those two, and then in subsequent open enrollments in the future years, you can add the full family to dental vision. But again, these are things that you can only do during the open enrollment time, unless you have some kind of life event that allows you to make changes during the year. So you really want to think not only about the past year, but the upcoming year. It is important, though, please be mindful that any amounts that you set aside in a tax-free account last year, whether it was for an FSA, HSA, or the dependent care account, those do not roll over year to year. So you need to set those deductions or contributions up for 2018. We have various voluntary benefits. I mentioned optional life and AD&D for your spouse or children. We also have our Info Armor benefit. It's been enhanced this year to add Tri-Credit Bureau access, as well as the Hyatt Legal Service. Both of those benefits are timely, and we get good feedback from our employees in terms of value for the money. You can find more information on the website about both of those. You're going to look at your beneficiaries and consider registering for telehealth. It's one of those things to, again, try and be preemptive, proactive. Download the apps or get yourself registered now, so when the need arises, you're all set and you're ready to go with an online doctor visit. And then, of course, Vitality. We've got, like I said, a little over half of you. That's another almost half of you that we'd love to learn more about the program and get registered and benefit from all the offerings of that program. And if you take no action, all your current coverages will continue just at the 2018 rates. And again, I mentioned your contributions to your dependent care, health care, and health savings accounts will all be zero. So be mindful of that so you don't miss out on the tax advantage savings. Okay, and then just you'll have these in the presentation, but again, you can call the Benefits Center. This is especially if you're having trouble logging in or any trouble navigating the system. There's also an email address that you can reach them. We remind employees about the People Support Center. That's actually the most efficient way to have your questions answered. If it's a more routine question, it'll be answered right away. If it's more complicated, it will get transferred over to someone on the benefits team and will be available to help you with any questions. So you've got all the various links to the different places that you need to go to over the coming weeks. So with about 10 minutes left, I can open it up to some questions.
Okay, hi, it's Linda Fifield. Colin and I will be taking your questions. Colin, I'll read from our list that we've received, if you don't mind.
Sure, and Linda, I suppose before we even get started, just to note that we had well over 700 people on the call, and we received many, many, many questions. So undoubtedly, we won't be able to get to all of those questions on this call, but you can certainly reach out. If we don't answer your question on this call, please feel free to reach out to one of the benefits team members, and we'd be happy to help you. And we'll also have this list of questions that we'll try and get back to you as well. But absolutely reach out if we don't get to your question.
Yep, and you can also use the People Support Center to get answers to your questions as well. Okay, so Colin, it appears that there is a lot of questions around the Blue Cross Blue Shield reimbursement plan. So let me just tell you, people want to know where the form is. People want to know, do they have to be enrolled in our medical plan in order to participate? And I think that's it. So there's quite a few people with those type of questions.
For both the fitness reimbursement and the weight loss reimbursement program, you do have to be enrolled in one of the DS medical plans. So you have to be enrolled in either the copay, coinsurance, or health investment plan in order to be eligible for those reimbursements. The reimbursement form for both the fitness and the weight loss reimbursement program is available on our benefits website, rewards@3ds.com, and then you can look under the forms and documents section. I believe it's under the documents medical section specifically. There's also a search bar on the website now too. So if you just type in fitness or you type in weight loss, you should be able to pull those up as well.
Thank you.
Can I just add, I learned yesterday from talking to the Blue Cross person that it's really important that you use the DS form, because of course, it's not just for a gym membership, but yoga, Zumba, other kinds of classes. And I got some feedback from employees that they're having some trouble getting their claims processed, and Blue Cross said one of the reasons is that they're getting the generic form out on the Blue Cross site, which causes some delays. So yeah, it's really important that you pull the form down from rewards@3ds.com because it's a dedicated DS form.
Thank you, Maureen. All right, so the other thing that there seems to be a little bit of confusion on is about copays in the coinsurance and in the copay plan. People are wondering if copays go towards the deductible and towards the out-of-pocket maximum.
Sure. So copays on either plan, or in essence, copays in general, do not count towards your deductible, but they do count towards the out-of-pocket maximum.
So do we have a list of preventative medications that somebody can review if they are planning to participate in the health investment plan, so they know what, what medicines they'll be paying the 10, 25, and 50 for?
Yes. So again, out on the rewards at 3ds.com site, we have a list. Again, it's under the forms and documents. In this case, I believe there's a section for prescription. And if you look into the prescription section under forms, there is the list of the preventive medication. So
people are also wondering if our plans cover them while they're outside of the country traveling.
Mm-hmm. So I think primarily that's focused on medical. But in the case of medical, yes, Blue Cross does have worldwide coverage. So I'll start with emergency coverage. And in the case of an emergency anywhere in the world, that treatment or that emergency room visit would be covered as an in-network service. So you wouldn't have to deal with out-of-network service. Again, the reality is you're likely to have to pay the claim out of pocket to that international provider, that healthcare facility somewhere outside of the U.S. But then you would be able to file that claim with Blue Cross for reimbursement, and it would be reimbursed at the in-network rate. So again, if you're on the copay or the co-insurance plan, you're talking about paying that $100 copay for that visit, and Blue Cross would be paying the rest. In the case of non-emergent care worldwide, Blue Cross does have a worldwide network of providers, which you are welcome to use. There's a Blue Cross worldwide network document out on, again, the rewards at 3ds.com site. You can access their Blue Card program to find, and it provides both an 800 number, so you have access to that information at any time, as well as website. But with that, you obviously could have in-network service worldwide for non-emergent care. If you're going to a non-Blue Cross provider somewhere else in the world, the reality is there is probably a stronger likelihood that you would have out-of-network service. So you would be responsible for, say, paying that deductible and the higher co-insurance for those services.
Thank you. We have some questions about the health investment plan with the HSA attached to it. Somebody wants to know if they are participating in the health investment plan and putting money into their HSA, if when they leave the country after they terminate, will they be able to take those funds with them?
So it's really a two-part question. The first part is if you've set up an HSA account, no matter when you leave Dassault Systems or you leave the country, that account always belongs to you. So that's first and foremost. The account belongs to you regardless of your status of a U.S. resident or of your status with being a Dassault Systems employee. The second part of it, in terms of could you still have access to use those funds? Absolutely. So whether you, and if you are incurring claims outside of the country, you can still submit to get reimbursed for those claims, or in essence, reimburse yourself or pay. It'll probably be more difficult to pay providers internationally, but you can still reimburse yourself for those claims from your health savings account. If you decided just to, in essence, cash out that account, meaning just take the cash and not use it as a health savings account any further, you do have the potential of paying taxes and penalty for withdrawing those funds for non-healthcare related items. But again, the account belongs to you, so regardless of where you are in the world, those funds belong to you.
All right, I'll give you an easy one now. Can you add funds mid-year to your HSA?
Yes. So different from the flex spending account, a medical flex spending account or a dependent care flex spending account, you're going to set those accounts during open enrollment, and that's the amount being deducted throughout the course of the year. You don't have the flexibility to change those without a qualifying event. With a health savings account, you do have the flexibility during the course of the year to adjust to either increase how much you're contributing or decrease or stop contributions, etc. Very similar to what you do with your 401k, meaning you have complete control over when and how much you're contributing to that health savings account. The one thing I will say with that is through payroll deduction, you don't have the ability to do, say, lump sum contributions. Whatever you're electing as your contribution amount would be divided by the number of pay periods remaining in the year. If you did want to do some sort of lump sum contribution to your HSA, you are welcome to do that directly with Health Equity, but you would be making a post-tax contribution to the plan and taking any tax advantage when you file your annual tax return.
So we talk about, after you get $2,000 in your HSA that you can start investing. Is there any way, do we have show anywhere what you can invest in and what type of options that we have for employees?
Sure. I hate to keep saying this, but out of the rewards@3ds.com site, there is a list of the investment options. Certainly, if you already have a health savings account, you'll be able to go into your healthequity.com account and actually look at it and get more details about the investments, any type of fee structure that there may be with those investments, how the funds are performing, etc. But in terms of a base list of what investment choices there are available, you can find that on rewards@3ds.com, again, in the forms and documents section.
Okay, and then we have a few people that want to know, do we need to re-enroll if we are not making any changes this year?
In the case of, or I should say, generically speaking, the answer is no. You don't need to re-enroll in your medical, dental, vision, etc. Those will automatically carry over. If you are somebody that participates in a flex spending account, again, either a medical or dependent care flex spending account, as well as the health savings account, you do need to make an active election for those. Those three savings account plans do not allow you to just roll over what you are contributing in 2017 into 2018. So you do need to make those elections for 2018.
So what happens if you participate in the HSA this year and then decide next year to switch plans? Is that money still available for you in retirement or to use in the year that you're not enrolled in the HSA?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. The health savings account, again, no matter what belongs to you, those are your funds. You won't be able to contribute anymore to a health savings account if you're not participating in a high deductible plan like our health investment plan. But the funds that are in that plan can be used for, again, if you moved from the health investment plan in 2017 and move into, say, the co-insurance plan for 2018, your out-of-pocket expenses, whether they're for medical, dental, vision, or prescription drugs, you can use your HSA account to reimburse those expenses. Or similarly, I think you mentioned, or the question came in about retirement. Again, that account can sit there until you reach retirement age, and you can use that to pay for things like your supplemental Medicare coverage or obviously any claims expenses that you're incurring in retirement.
Okay, then we have a question about the new generic drug requirement. Somebody wants to know, will it just happen with Express Scripts when they go to the pharmacy, or do they need to call their doctor to ensure that he writes the specific generic?
Well, typically, both in any and every case, you should always ask your doctor if a generic is available, just to make sure. But typically, the pharmacist will also do that as well. But from the perspective of what should you do, again, if you're taking a medication, you can reach out to Express Scripts now to find out, is it a brand name versus a generic medication? Is there a generic medication available, a generic alternative medication available if you are taking a brand name drug? And then talk to your doctor about why he or she was recommending the brand name to begin with. If the doctor has some rationale as to why you're taking the brand name versus the generic, the Express Scripts program has an opportunity for you to file an appeal, or for your doctor, I should say, to file an appeal as to why the brand name is the option that they need you to take rather than a generic.
Okay. We have still a few more questions around that. So do we have a list of all the generic drugs available, and how will an employee know if there isn't a generic available?
So again, on the rewards at 3ds.com site, there's a formulary list of commonly prescribed medications. And on that it does highlight, I think the generics are listed in lowercase letters, the brand names are listed in uppercase letters. So you're able to identify a number from that rewards at 3ds.com site. Express Scripts itself has a prescription drug finder tool that will, again, allow you to type in the name of whatever medication you're typing, and it'll let you know of generic alternatives as well.
Okay. And I think if we can just remind people that there is an appeal process, because we have a lot of questions around what if a generic drug won't work for me. So if you want to just talk a little bit about that.
There's no question that there are cases that Maureen had mentioned during the presentation, the example of, say, allergies to some of the filler ingredients within medications. Clearly, that would be something that if you're allergic to the generic medication, that isn't going to work for you. We strongly recommend that you get enough medication in December going into January, so that you can work on that appeal with your doctor and Express Scripts, so that when you are going to fill that prescription in January or February, that you've given yourself enough time to go through that appeal process with Express Scripts.
Okay. So somebody wants to know about telehealth, and if their telehealth will notify their regular doctor if they call in to the telehealth benefit provider.
I'm gonna be honest and say I'm not positive on the answer to that, so I don't know if anybody else on the benefits team knows. My first belief is no, that there isn't necessarily a direct connection between the telehealth doctor and your treating physician.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Colin. Everything that we've heard, because you're really just calling in for, I have a sore throat, I'm on vacation, that kind of thing. I think that you're right about that. And then somebody just wants us to confirm, is the telehealth benefit available 24/7?
Yes. That's really, honestly, one of the main conveniences is, again, if you've got a sick child with an ear infection in the middle of the night, you may not be able to get into an appointment with your doctor, or your doctor may say, come in first thing in the morning. You may be able to have that telehealth provider get that prescription, because it's not the first time this kid has had an ear infection. You know what it is. They can undoubtedly identify that via telehealth, and you're able to get that prescription perhaps sooner, because just for myself, I feel like my kids never get sick during normal business hours. They are always getting sick after hours, so the telehealth service is perfect for that. I would also say from the behavioral health or mental health services as well, so seeing a psychologist or a social worker from A, the convenience of home, but B, at hours that work for you. So doing it at 9 o'clock at night or whatever is convenient for you, you're able to find those services any hour of the day.
And Colin, I have to ask this one because this is near and dear to my heart. Can an employee list a living trust as a beneficiary?
Absolutely. Really, in all three systems that we have, whether it's in the ADP for your life insurance or AD&D insurance, for your 401k, as well as if you have a health savings account, you are able to list people, trusts, etc., as your beneficiaries. Each of those systems has that flexibility to allow you to choose your trust or choose your beneficiary, regardless of people or trust.
Okay. And so somebody wants to know where they can find more information on InfoArmor, and I guess that would also be Hyatt Legal and all of our benefits. And so maybe you can just say one more time where everybody can go to find information on our benefits.
Sure. The rewards@3ds.com site I mean, in all honesty, we have made that really a repository that has information about all of our benefits. So if you are looking for a form or document, a summary of any of the plans, or a description of what services are included in, say, the InfoArmor or the Hyatt Legal plan, or again, you just want more detail about what's covered on our medical plans. Maureen, in the slide deck today, had a very high-level overview of the medical plans, but there are summary descriptions for the medical plans, dental, vision, etc., out on that rewards@3ds.com site. So really, any and all information that you want to know about our benefits, we feel that can answer 99% of your questions is available out there on the rewards@3ds.com site.
Yeah, and the other thing, Colin, I just want to remind people too, we do have a health investment guide out there that we put out there new this year because we've had a lot of questions about it. So we thought it would be nice to get that out there so people could look at that at their leisure.
That's true, and really those new items for 2018 or the summary documents for the 2018 plan year, you're able to find those specifically in that open enrollment portal within the rewards@3ds.com site.
Yeah. All right, so I have another question that I'm loving. I have a person that has their dependent set up in ADP, and they're wondering if they are eligible to be their beneficiaries because somebody is of an age when maybe they won't be covered under our medical plan, so they're 26 or above.
Sure.
So can you address who can be a dependent and who can be a beneficiary?
Sure. So in terms of generically speaking, if you've listed a dependent and they're 22 now or they're 25 now, they're going to be turning 26, they're still going to remain listed as your dependent. They won't be eligible for your benefits once they turn 26, but they still show up in your system as a dependent, or in the ADP system as both a dependent/beneficiary. If you're adding new dependents or new beneficiaries, again, you can choose a beneficiary only, and you would be doing that specifically if, say, it's a brother or a sister or a parent that can't be covered under your medical, dental, or vision plan. Those would be listed as beneficiary only. Or I think you had mentioned that perhaps they have a child that has already aged out. Again, you can list them as beneficiary only, and again, you wouldn't be able to add them to your medical, dental, or vision plan, but you can certainly put them as beneficiaries to whether it's your life or AD&D benefits, your 401k, or your health savings account.
Okay. And then somebody wants to know, is getting married a qualifying event?
Yes. So that would be the prime example of during the course of the year. If you have some event, typically those things are getting married or having a child, adopting a child, or perhaps you had benefits or your spouse had benefits through their own employer, but they lost their employment or the benefits ended at their employer. Those would all be examples of qualifying events where that does allow you to make changes to your benefits during the calendar year. So in the case of a qualifying event like marriage, let's say you got married on January 10th, you'd be able to add your new spouse to your benefits as of January 10th. You'd have a 30-day window from that event date. So from January 10th until February 9th would be that qualifying event window. You could make that election either in the ADP system itself, or you can call our DS Benefits Center to make that election over the phone. And again, the DS Benefits Center will come back to you and ask for documentation. In the case of a marriage, it would be that marriage certificate you would need to submit to them just as backup documentation. But again, you can then add your spouse, again, effective that January 10th date or the date of that wedding.
All right, Colin, we're about 10 minutes over our time. We do have a lot of questions that remain, but unfortunately, I think, so what we should say is that if anybody has any questions, please go to the Customer Support Center and log a ticket. Carly Rosenfeld, Colin, and I are always here, but your first line of defense, I guess, is really just to go to that website and log a ticket, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks. On that note, we really appreciate you turning out today. We've had a great turnout, and thank you for your time.